Um, I think I was born with a passion for animals. I always loved animals. I grew up in a household with a lot of animals, and they were very much what I focused on all my love on. I always had an interest in animals that had problems, that seemed to be suffering, or, you know, I was one of those kids that brought home wounded kittens and that sort of thing. And my main animal passion was horses. So I don't remember myself not being able to ride a horse. And in fact, through my life, horses have always... I've worked with horses, I've trained horses, I took horses from the racetrack to retrain them and rehabilitate them. So my animal skills are training or working, in a way healing emotionally animals so that they can live more comfortably with humans, because it's not always easy for them. And I also always had a slightly alternative look on life. I've travelled, and meditation, all of those things have not been very mainstream in my life. So I was aware of natural medicines, I used them on myself. And I was introduced first of all to essential oils when I was in America in the 80s by a friend. And then to a certain state, I was living in America, I returned to England, and a friend of mine who was a herbalist said, "You have to meet this woman. She's doing essential oils with animals and it's really interesting work. You guys are going to get on great." So I read a little bit about her work, and this was Caroline Ingraham, who was a trained aromatherapist with Robert Tisserand. And she had developed a system of allowing the animals to self-select the essential oils. She worked with a vet in America to develop this system. So when I understood a little bit about the system, you offer the essential oil and you just let the animal say what it wants to do. And I thought, wow, that's cool. So I was called out by a client to visit a new horse who was having problems. And I went, let's take some essential oils. So I took the Roman chamomile and the lavender or whatever I had in my bathroom, just that's how I was using them then. And went out to see this horse. And I arrived at this place and I saw the horse in his stable. And this horse was just spinning around the stable like a crazy creature, And this wasn't even the problem they called me for. They called me because he was throwing the girl off all the time. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just opened the bottle of chamomile and stood outside this horse's stable door and watched this horse go from spinning around his stable like a lunatic and just passing the top of the bottle, taking a quick sniff as he came past the bottle. And slowly, and actually not so slowly, quite quickly, he was turning slower, spending more time by the bottle before he spun again, until he just stood there. And you could see this horse's sort of mind, body, soul, everything aligning, and he just stopped and went into this deep state of relaxation. And stood there, very eyes, kind of what I call now a trance. I understand what it is now. And then he just opened his eyes, kind of came back to himself, and looked at me and went, here you are, somebody's listening to me. And he put his trust in my hand straight away. And this was so touching. It was just such an amazing moment for me. I went, okay, I need to learn about this. So I contacted Caroline and I went on to learn from her, and I was teaching on her courses about problem animals, so we started to have an alliance. And essential oils, they're so fascinating, and the way you work with them is so it's just interesting and so effective that although I learnt them so I could integrate it with my work with the problem horses, what happened is that I started just to do more and more essential oil work with different animals, and and essential oils just started to take over my life. And I felt I needed to learn more, so I studied with Kurt Schnaubelt in Pacific Institute of Aromatherapy, and I went to Gabriel Moje, who does the Chinese medicine essential oils, which is fabulous work, and then I started to integrate that. And then from my animal side, I started kinesiology as well. So it was this big picture of holistic health that I was building, which I then integrated with my understanding of stress and animals, because I worked with animals who were stressed, you know. And sometimes the essential oils were not, they would take it so far but not really finished, you know, you had to keep coming back, because with this work you expect them to stop interest in the essential oils when they feel better. Sometimes animals wouldn't stop the interest, and I realized it's because they were still stressed, and that without removing the thing that was stressing them in their life, the healing would never be complete. Yeah, you'd always need to support them, and I wanted a complete, integrated, healthy animal. So I looked further into stress and the function, the physiological and the psychological function of stress, and realized that all of our domestic animals are stressed because most of them are not getting their evolutionary, species-specific needs taken care of. So, for instance, for a horse, that's free movement and company, family and friends. So being shut in a stable for a horse is a stress. For a dog, that's having family members available, not being left alone, being able to go out and sniff around, walk slowly and smell things, you know. So little things like that which you can do, and diet is a huge part of the stress of an animal, you know. Not a dog that's just being fed these dry biscuit things is physiologically stressed all the time. So in my work I incorporate all of those aspects along with the essential oils and balance the whole picture for the animal to bring it back to...
Dentre os animais que você trata, né, gatos, cães,